Okay. As long as we were on the flag, Barb, thank you for letting us know the proper placement of the flag.
I moved it on him last time.
Oh,
It's supposed to be on the right-hand side of the room, and, or, well, the left-hand side.
I was gonna say,
Stand
she's right.
as you're looking to.
But she's got it in the right area, so thank you very much. Okay, proof of posting.
the agenda was posted in the upper and lower levels of the Ahmanson Community Center, the Cambridge Post Office, Hometown Bank, and the village website.
All right, okay. Moving on, public appearances.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, anything that anybody wants to talk about that's not on the agenda? Four of you are no. Nope. Okay. All right, approval of the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right. Any need for discussion on this?
Minutes looked outstanding.
Okay. All right, motion has been made and seconded.
Sorry, which operator's license was that?
There isn't any on this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
none.
All right. We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda. Please signify by saying aye, or if you were in approval.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody not? Okay, that passes unanimously. Moving on. Reports. I have a single item, well, 1 1/4. I did receive some compliments with our Department of Public Works for the striping and the painting of the stalls downtown, and I passed that on to Wilbur. So thank you for getting that done. I got a phone call from Travis Holley, and Travis is one of the owners of the distillery. And effective July 1st, Travis sold his interest in the distillery to Tom Moss. So he will be around. His significant other is working there and will continue to work there. But apparently this was a good time for him to take the offer. So as a courtesy, he just let me know that that had happened. I don't think there's anything else to follow up on it. Lisa, is there? Looked at that, so we're all right there. As long as, you know, either Travis or Tom continue to own and operate the distillery, then we are under our obligation to make those payments. I think, what is it, $10,000 a year for the next 30 years?
It's what the taxes collected.
Okay.
Or
All right.
300,000, whichever it is.
Yeah.
And that was all in the developers agreement.
Okay, Personnel Committee?
All right, we had a personnel committee meeting, and there is a new business item for that personnel committee, and that's all I have for it. A couple other members here. Anything else to add? Ted or Sue?
Nope. I think we're good.
The most of the meeting consisted of that new business for 9 Echo.
Okay, all right, the vacation policy, all right, thank you. Lisa, what can you tell us about the village office updates?
Been working on Blue Jay Way. We'll be discussing that on the agenda, and Melsters is on the agenda. We have been finishing up work with the auditors, getting them the last of things they need, answering the last of their questions. The remodel, we're still waiting on the doors for the closet, are not in yet. The punch list was done today. They should be getting that list to the contractors by the end of this week. We did order 1 set of furniture to see if we liked it, if it fits, so forth, and we do, but we'll wait until that punch list is completed. We don't want to order it and have it in there until they're finished, so working on that. One thing that came up today, I had sent an email to the people who had installed our phones 15 years ago, saying, we're going to be moving, we'll need it switched, the lines coordinated and so forth. Apparently, in 2018, they had spoken to the administrator, sent in some emails and letters saying that those phones were not going to be serviced anymore because of replacements and so forth unless we had a agreement with them. It was never followed up with on our by our administrator. So I have called in to them to see if we can still get that maintenance agreement, if we can move the phones over. So I'm waiting to hear back from them on that. So that's the remodel. Funding options for the loans is on the agenda. A lot of state reports were recently due. We had a TID report due, personal property, liquor licensing. We're helping Dan with the financial aspect of the SEMA report. Election postcard reporting from the April election, as well as four-year maintenance postcards for elections, is all going on right now. All of the notices and so forth, Open Book, Board of Review. Open Book did occur today. He had 4 people come to Open Book, so he was working with them. Board of Review will be July 31st. I did meet with a representative from the U.S. Census in preparation for the census that will be done on 2020 and their desire to work with municipalities to promote and work with them as they're doing that. I will be meeting this week with McFarland Senior Outreach as well as the distillery and Town and Country regarding their remodel and their water and sewer needs with that. We have been working record management in preparation for the move as times allow, starting, going through things as we can and so forth. Police committee did meet just before this. We did have a representative from Dane County Sheriff's Office come in and give us a very informative overview of drone rules, regulations, the federal government, state laws, and so forth. So if anyone from the police committee had anything else to add, but that was the bulk of our discussion there. And that's all I have.
The new offices, the punch list has been reviewed, everything's been,
He was in today.
all right?
He's creating it. He will get it sent to us and the contractor later this week.
Okay. And do we have an anticipated date? Not that it's a hard date, but when we're moving in?
Once they get the punch list, there's not major issues that he saw, but we'd be asking that they complete that as soon as possible within a week or so. So, and then we will order the rest of the furniture and finish going through stuff and start moving stuff. So, looking, at least a month
It
before
sounds
we're
like the
in there
furniture doesn't
working.
take that long to get, so.
No, the furniture does not take long.
Okay.
So,
So you see yourself moving in there then during the month of August and your
Yeah.
old offices being available empty on September 1st, but not the
No.
storeroom?
not September 1st.
Okay.
We want to go through all those filing cabinets. We want, we're not just taking everything and moving it over there. We're going through it, organizing, purging the things that we recently passed the ordinance to adopt the state rules on record retention. So we can go through, purge the older things we don't need. If we just move it over there,
We'll never get
it
done.
won't get,
I understand. Well, just trying to move
Uh-huh.
ahead here, but, when you might think that you'll be completely out. You don't know yet.
we'll have a better idea once the punch list is done and once all furniture's here,
Okay.
but
Any questions of Lisa here?
Can we consider, when we move into the new space, implementing a clean desk policy?
We will try our best.
If it's a policy, it's a policy. And what the clean
It
desk,
is.
just what the clean desk policy is, in case you're aware, aren't aware, the idea behind a clean desk policy is so that confidential information is not left out for people to see. We have cleaning staff that goes in there that could peruse information, and so the idea of a clean desk policy is to make sure there is nothing left on the countertops that's face up that someone could just to glance over and read.
Oh, and, yeah, we don't leave,
Nothing
Yeah.
confidential, everything's public
Yeah.
record, really.
Well, I know when,
Attorney-client privilege would be the only
everything
thing.
isn't public record, because when I'm going to run for office, I have to give a bank account, and that's not public
yeah.
record.
And that, we don't leave sitting on the
So-
desks. Yeah,
It is actually
It
public
is
record
public,
unless
yeah.
that's changed in the last 6 months to 12
Uh-huh.
months, that's public record. I was informed of that by the Wisconsin Election Commission when I questioned it previously, to make candidates aware of that.
Well, there are Social Security numbers that are stored in our offices, so I would think
Yeah,
those are
those aren't
confidential.
I'm
those
sure
aren't
that's
out,
taken.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, and just because those things can happen by accident, and when you implement a clean desk policy, then that just makes sure that those things are secured.
I'm sure it's something we can discuss in personnel.
Okay, that'd be a good place.
Mhm.
All right. Other comments? Questions of Lisa? Okay. Moving on. We're going to get to bills. There's a stack of these in front of me for $25,822.37.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills and set them out.
Second.
Questions?
The only question I had, which I think was answered, was there's a bill for Pepsi.
Mhm.
Is that for that machine there?
Mhm.
Right.
There's a bill in here, and you have it over the 5,000 to Baker Tilly, $11,250. How's that going? The audit, I'm assuming that's what it's all for.
Mhm.
How far along are we with this to get this wrapped up in a presentation?
They should be wrapping it up. You know, they've asked for a few clarifications over the last couple of weeks on a number of things, but they should be, I have not received a date that Paul has given us, but it should be wrapping up. He had said by July, you know, they'd be wrapping up. By August, they'd be giving presentations, so.
Okay. Any other questions? Concerns? Okay. We have a motion and a second. We'll have to vote on this individually, please. Roll call.
Trustee Kumbier,
Yes.
Hollenbeck,
Yes.
Breinig,
Yes.
Whitwer,
Yes.
Cunningham.
Yes.
Christensen, McNally.
Yes. Okay. Those are passed. All right. Moving on, committee assignments is two-part. I had approached Christine Lang, who is the operator of, geez, I almost was there.
Avid Gardner.
Avid Gardner.
And it's Christiane.
Christiane. Yeah, I should read these, put my glasses on. Anyway, she has agreed to serve on the committee. So I think that puts us at full strength there for at least the economic development. Correct?
Yep.
All right.
So do we know when that first meeting is going to be?
No.
We had talked about August. You know, we'll reach out now and see when people are available and get that scheduled.
Need to get an agenda for that, and it's a little rougher to do when you don't have anything much to work off of, so, okay. All right, moving on to...
Need approval.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the committee assignment of Christiane Lang.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of appointing Christiane Lang to the Economic Development Committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. She is now part of the committee. Okay, moving into the new business. Steve Struss, can you come forward, please?
You get to read it.
Okay.
So you better put your
Yeah,
glasses
you
on.
got that right.
It's not Stephanie Struss out there.
Yeah. All right. Steve, the Village of Cambridge would like to recognize your service and present you with a proclamation, and I will read this. Whereas, as a longtime resident, Steve Struss has volunteered his services to the Village of Cambridge for many years, and whereas Steve began his service on the village board over 25 years ago and served as president from August 2011 through April 2019, and whereas Steve has served on numerous committees over the years, including Water and Sewer, Cambridge Oakland Wastewater Commission, the Fire Commission, Youth Board, Audit and Finance, Economic Development, among others, and whereas Steve has been instrumental in bringing developments such as the new wastewater treatment plant at Home Again, Cambridge Winery, and Vineyards at Cambridge to Cambridge, and whereas Steve and his wife Lori have been instrumental in the Cambridge Arts Council and bringing the Fire Fest to Cambridge, concerts in the park, and other events to Cambridge, and whereas Steve Struss's hard work and dedication has helped maintain and enhance Cambridge and has made Cambridge a better place to work in, live in, and visit, and his presence on the village board will be missed. And whereas members of the village board look forward to working with Steve in other capacities as he continues to volunteer his services on committees for the benefit of the Village of Cambridge and its residents. And now, therefore, I, Mark McNally, President of the Village of Cambridge, do recognize Steve Struss for his years of service to the Village of Cambridge, dated this 9th day of July, 2019.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Steve. Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
Thank you so much for this honor. It's been a privilege, really, to serve this community. I didn't realize it's been 25 years. Time flies. But I got involved originally with the village board just to learn about the community and to provide some assistance. And I really enjoyed it. It's a good way to know what's going on and to direct the village and to serve the community. So by and large, it was a very positive experience. I know a lot of people say public service is a thankless job, and some of you guys might think that at times. But I think for the most part, people appreciate what I've done and what you folks do for the community. And other than a couple of things like special assessments and dangerous dog ordinances, dangerous animal ordinances, it's been a very positive experience. I think even though the board hasn't always agreed, I feel like we've had good discussion, and we're all pulling basically in the same direction, you know, trying to help the community and move it forward. So not a lot of politics involved like we see at the state or national level, and that's why I really enjoyed serving on this board and all the committees. So I love Cambridge, and I'm not going away. I'm still going to be around, and like I said, my wife Lori and I will continue to serve the community as and in some ways I'm finding it's easier. I have more time to do certain things, concentrate on some projects and whatnot. So I'll continue to do it in that capacity. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We have a proposal here from CART regarding when we do have some space upstairs that they might be interested in renting. So can the CART personnel step forward, the first table there with the microphone, and introduce yourselves?
Okay, I'm Tom Watson. I'm president of the board. And I thought pass out
Thank you.
some information sheets if you're not aware of what CART is.
Thanks, Tom.
And I'm Kristen Asen-Gowan, and I work at CART, and I also work at the school district and the social worker.
Excuse me, my name is Dan Bostic, and I'm also on the board for CART and serve as its treasurer.
Right. So you have your presence in the community right now, and that's over at the Wolf Storage. And you've been there for how long?
This is our 7th year, I believe.
Okay, all right. And they are charging you $500 per month rent for your current facility. And that's approximate to what we would have here for space when it's all done?
So we currently pay $500 a month, as you correctly stated. It's about 750 square feet, and the layout of the floor plan is very similar to upstairs. It's 2 rooms, one in which we have our office administrative, our files, and then in the other room we have a boardroom table, another workstation, storage. And so when we first saw the space and contemplated it, it looked like a very good fit for us. And also the advantage of having a greater presence in the village, we thought that would be certainly advantageous to us and help us reach out to more of the community by being located downtown versus having people having to drive to a location off the highway.
Okay.
Mark, if I can just throw one thing in. If you don't know, we have a working relationship with the school board of Cambridge, and they've hired Kristen for 4 days a week, and we've hired her for 1 day. So it was allowed the school district to offer her a full-time job, which is what she was looking for, and keep her in the school system for 4 days, and she works for us for 1 day. We pay the school system. That's how they get their money for her employment. And we have found that because she works directly with the children and the families in the school district, and we work with the families in the school district, that it works very well. She knows the kids and the families that we're working with. So that's a relationship we've had 3 years, maybe 3 years. And last time I talked to Bernie, he said the school district plans on keeping us on. So that's how we're set up there.
And from what I understand, Tom, Kristen, you have to have somebody in the building with you.
It is part of my contract, yeah.
Okay. And this would meet those standards as far as if we had people in the building.
That I'm not sure of. That has not been clarified.
Okay.
So, and I would say that's not a part of our purpose necessarily for being co-located. But that would be a conversation, I think, with Mr. Nicolay.
All right.
And it would be an advantage. But if we still needed volunteers, what we do now with the CART building is if Kristen's working and we don't have a volunteer set up, then a volunteer comes in. So chances are we'd still have a volunteer upstairs working in the room.
And there are additional staff who do client services and CART work who are on a volunteer basis. We have quite a large pool of volunteers, but I'm the only paid person. So there's other volunteers that are in the office doing client assistance and CART work, not just being my bodyguard.
Other questions that they might have?
I don't have a question, I just have a statement. I think that CART does an awful lot for the Cambridge community. I think bringing them into the Ahmanson Center would be a really great thing to improve what your visibility in the community and to improve where our staff can do referrals as well for people that may have the need for some of CART's services. I know right now you're paying $500 a month rent. I think we as a board should consider that we don't, that what we look for from a cart perspective is to cover the additional costs and not try and make money off of cart, because they are a nonprofit. And so if we were to charge them rent, I would like to see that commensurate with, you know, what we think their anticipated electric bill would be, which I don't think would be $500 a month. So,
But you also have gas and,
right, but we'd be heating that anyway. We are now. I mean, we're not going to turn off that portion of the building,
no,
even if it was empty. So I would just, all I'm saying is, that's a recommendation I would make to the board.
It's commensurate to the services they provide in the community.
Absolutely.
I guess I have a question to Lisa. We had talked about using the area that you're in right now for additional storage of records.
Like I've said, I don't feel comfortable giving up the second room until we are fully moved in and know that we have the space that we need. I don't want to all of a sudden be full there and say, where do we go with records? You know, we did have the storage room added, we have more storage space. Do I think there's going to be a problem? No, but I want to make sure
I would
we have
say
all the
that,
space we need.
I know that you can't see the future, but it sounds like within the next 6 to 9 months, you should be able to accomplish all of your purging and record
Yeah.
files and so forth. And I think as a board, and I may be speaking out of turn because I'm not consulting with them right now, but I think as long as we knew that second room, which was storage, was going to be available, that it's something that we could work with in the short term. But if the circumstances were that it was never going to become available, then I think we really have to think hard if this is really going to work well for us. We would have to have meetings in other rooms within the building, and it wouldn't be as accommodating as the current lease that we have with the Wolves. But I think as long as there's a plan that eventually that space will become available in the next 6 months or so, and I think we can work with that.
Yep.
Yeah. And, you know, I would like to think that we would have some type of structure of a formal lease rather than a handshake, and I think you would prefer that too.
We need that.
And it would be, again, I'm just talking what is ideal from our position, and that's why it's a discussion here with you, is that we would like a 3-year minimum. That way, just going year to year, I'd hate to move and then to find out that we had to leave for whatever reason, and then our space is leased, and then we're looking in the village, where else can we go after giving up a fairly good arrangement that we have. In addition, you know, we have our own cleaning service, and I don't know if you have a cleaning service just for the building itself, but we pay someone for that service to clean our office, and we would expect to continue that unless there's a different arrangement here for this building. And other than that, like most leases, we would need your approval to make any alterations to the space, if that should ever come about. We would have to give some thought to signage and what would be acceptable to you, but obviously people need to know we're here, and some identification sign, I think, would be required. So those are just kind of the minutiae, the details that would have to be evolved as we get closer to if we're going to proceed.
On that signage, your current sign it's pretty noticeable.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of placards, and I don't know if we're going to be interested. So how do we do this? I mean, are you okay if we just have your name as a tenant on the I don't know what do they call it, those signs that are when you're in the vestibule?
Yeah.
Are you all right with that?
I think we could put some sort of small exterior sign up as well next to the Ahmanson Center sign that says, you know, cart I think that would be reasonable as well. I mean, the one you have now is really big on the
Yeah, right.
building, so.
We'll put that in
We
Mark's
can find a
office.
compromise in between,
Sure.
I would think.
Maybe put the current sign up by that statue up there.
I agree, it
That's
would be
an
nice to
excellent
have
idea.
some kind of signage outside to direct people in, but I think we can,
Well,
what it looks like, we want it to work with the existing design.
we want it to be complement what you already have, so.
So if you did put a sign outside, if you did, it would be restricted to like 3 foot by,
Yeah.
We'd
3
work
foot.
with you.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay.
We're not gonna come
We-
over and put up a sign.
We have
in.
no intent of bringing that other sign over.
Well, I wanted to make sure, that's
Yeah,
all.
it's a good thing to ask.
And all signs would have to go before Mike,
Mike
the
Fenley.
building inspector.
Yeah.
I would also, if you have a minimum of 3 lease terms, I mean, I would encourage us as a village board to maybe have that longer and give them the 120-day out after 3 years. Because if we have someone in there and we have someone there permanently, that's less overhead on village staff for turnover, for trying to find someone else, to try and find some other use for that space. So, and again, I think CART is really important in the community, so I would definitely encourage that we go beyond just a 3-year.
All right. How do we want to handle this? Because we're not going to negotiate this thing out tonight. Do we want to refer this back to Public Works? Now that we've had a meeting, if,
Public Works has talked about it briefly, that it was coming.
Mhm.
I think it's to the point where a board would have to decide what they would want, and we'd have a contract drawn up.
a leasing agreement
Mhm.
drawn up. All right. Okay. How does everybody feel about, they're paying $500 a month? Do we want to, do it more, do it less, leave it at 500? That's what they put in this agreement that they gave to us.
Well, they didn't actually say they pay, they just made a note of that's what they're paying today.
Right, but
And how does that work within your budget? Does that,
It's our budget, well, we're paying 6,000 for rent, and our budget is
40?
40, maybe
Oh,
40.
wow, that's a big chunk of your
So,
budget.
yeah.
The first, how many years? 3 or 4 years, the Wolves offered it to CART at no cost to us as in-kind, to support the agency to get started.
As you're aware, that we rely solely on private donations, and that $6,000 goes to pay rent, where it could be helping others.
Right.
And so that's really the bank account comes down, we do more fundraising. All I'm just saying is it's better spent helping others than necessarily paying rent.
That's where I would think, I personally would let them in for free, but I'm not sure that I can get the board to buy in on that. So if they pay $100 a month, I think that should more than cover their electric bill.
I think one other thing, you may want to discuss at a different meeting, or have us come back and also look at some of these smaller things. Another thing we discussed was phone, whether we'd be in your system, whether we'd have our own system, just how all of that would work. So,
well, you've got the phone,
Internet.
the sign,
internet,
the
yeah.
signage, the internet, and the cleaning.
Hmm.
So we got to figure out, because we've got somebody here who
Well,
cleans the building.
they said they have their own.
I know, but
It might be more advantageous to utilize
Yeah.
our cleaning.
I don't know that Peach has more time to do any more cleaning, though,
I don't
It's
know.
not,
so.
it's not a big.
What do we want to do? You want to just have we're not going to negotiate all this out
No.
tonight.
No.
No, and we don't even know when they can move in, because I think the staff needs to be a little bit closer on when they think that front room would be available. So I would say, maybe the staff can put together something preliminary based on, some of the conversation around that we've had here, throw something together, what are the minimum things? We can change numbers and things like that, and bring that back to the board in the August timeframe, I think would be appropriate.
And we
Because I
might
think
have a say,
the
too.
earliest these guys would probably be able to move in would most likely be sometime mid-September to October in that front room, based on what you told us tonight. Okay.
And we'd probably be looking at least October, so
Okay,
that we can
great.
get Wolf's, I mean, when we finally have a contract or lease, and we know we have a place, then we want to give them plenty of time
Sure.
too. So
Okay.
we're not looking at jumping in right away.
All right, I think it's safe to say we would like to have you here. I think it's safe to say we can work through these, these details. Why don't we just leave it where you know that there's a place that you could go to? We'll talk with you over the next couple of months. It won't be available until November anyway, October 31st at the latest, and it gives you some time to talk further with Mr. Wolf.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Great,
Okay, great.
thank you guys for
Thanks.
coming in.
Okay.
And thank you for all you do for the community.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, update from the Chamber of Commerce.
Hi, Karen Anderson here on behalf of the Chamber. Start with how much of your money we have spent. To date, we spent about $2,500. Parts of that have gone towards paying a map maker to have a map of Cambridge created that the village and the Chamber can use in any printed form that we would like. The other part of that has gone towards printing the calendar of events with the map on the backside. There are copies of it in the library and upstairs in the office, and all of the downtown businesses, most of the downtown businesses have them in their hands, and there are more available at the Chamber. So if you know anybody that would like some, they're in the Chamber office. And then another portion of that was towards wages. I don't have exact figures for you right now because of the holiday week last week. Myself and the treasurer were not available to do the work for that, so for your next meeting we can have actual financials ready for you. Sign update on welcome signs to Cambridge. After 6 months of wrangling, we have approved sign designs, and what we're facing right now is a lack of funds for what the original proposal was. So this whole sign deal started in 2013. The estimate for the cost of 3 signs at that time was $14,700. Carol Sapienza wrote a grant for that much, which was awarded in 2015. The price for 3 signs now is almost $24,000. So we can't wrangle 3 signs this year, but we can wrangle 2. So we've gotten agreements to get 2 signs for the $14,000, and I have tentative agreements with Bill Rangette for a sign on his property on 12 and 18 headed towards town, so headed from the west to the east. And we worked with Mary Bailing and the Village of Oakland to get a private property agreement with someone on 12 between Fort and Village of Cambridge. Since those are the 2 high traffic areas, we're going to hit those 2 first and then see where we go with the 3rd sign, which would be the sign that's already up on 18. And since it's already there, we're just going to leave it alone for this year and see where we can find money for a 3rd sign. Until then, we're just going to leave it be. We don't have the funds to fix it up or recreate it or any of that. So that's where those stand right now. Next event for us is Maxwell Street Days. It's August 2nd and 3rd. And we're trying something a little different this year, thanks to a nudge from one of your board members. Kathy Cunningham and I were at a meeting, and we were just talking about ideas that we've had to encourage people to come into town. Because Girls Night Out is a great driver of, bringing people in, getting people into the businesses, but it focuses solely on women. So for Maxwell Street Days, we're going to do what we're calling Max Bucks, and we're giving away $5 Max Bucks for the first 50 people that come to the Chamber of Commerce that can be spent at any location within the village and redeemed that weekend only. So we're hoping that it encourages more local shoppers into the local businesses, and it's available to be spent at any of the businesses, regardless of whether they're chamber members or not. So we're using sponsorship funds and some of the village funds to pay for that. Where was I going with that? We're also promoting the citywide rummage sale that weekend, and the library will have their used book sale. There'll be a summer concert that Friday, so hopefully we can generate a lot of interest in coming downtown when there's not a big event like Firefest. Firefest will be the weekend before that, so we know there's going to be a crowd for that, so we're hoping that we can bring back some of the traditional Maxwell Street shoppers and talk to the businesses about having stuff out on the sidewalks and all the stuff that people remember that Maxwell Street used to be that's kind of gone by the wayside for the past couple of years. And I think that's it for updates from me right now. Do you have any questions for me?
I have a question on, when is the chamber office open?
It fluctuates every week
That's-
because our administrator is not based, so she doesn't work solely out of the office, but she does work out 2 days a week, and it's usually Monday and Wednesday mornings from 9 to 11. But over the summer, she's fluctuating a little bit more due to travel. She also has her own business, and so she's moved that around a little bit to accommodate her own business as well.
Are you going to continue to have your meetings at the Galleria 214?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have a space within the office anymore to have a meeting, so that's where we are.
That's good.
Next one will be next Tuesday. It'll be a strategic planning meeting at 8:30.
Yeah.
Anything else?
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Update on the Melster site. This has been a bit of an issue. Sir, please give us your name and your title, and we'll have a discussion.
Name and title. The first part's easy. Joe DeYoung. I'm with MSA Professional Services. I'm a team leader with the company, so I think I've been here with a couple of you guys before, so you should know.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Basically, I'm here today to give an update on the Nelson site along with Lisa. We've had some progress that has been made, but the whole goal is basically tell you where we're at and where we're going, because this is going to take some time, and we kind of refer to it. Obviously, for everybody's purpose, a little bit of backstory is basically we propose to come in and help because of a claim of possible contaminations or things that were buried on the site that has to be cleaned up by the DNR, that we are now looking into it to investigate to figure out exactly what has to be done. Since my last update, and again, this maps are just for clarity, and I think it provided a letter from the attorney that basically showed you exactly where we're at. We met with the DNR, as we talked about before, and had a great discussion with them on what our goal is and what we're going to do. The packet that you're showing, and basically the front sheet that you have there is the locations of the solar borings that we proposed. That has been submitted to the DNR, and they're very satisfied with the layout that we have proposed, that we are proposing to do once we have permission. They're on board, they're waiting for us, they're glad that we're making progress. So the next thing would be is to schedule the actual investigation to figure out what we have to deal with and then how we're going to deal with it, and to let them know when that date is going to be. Before we could do that, and if you look at the first page, you see those beautiful white lines that show the parcels. We did run into a couple snakes. One in particular is that the old building site, which you see the black box that shows the hatched out areas, the old previous building that was torn down, some of it is now not located on your property. It is actually still at home again. So because of it, we obviously had to get permission to go dig holes in somebody else's property. And with that, we worked on language that the attorney has helped you out with in order to draft something up to go to them that they asked for, which says basically, hey, we know it's documented, but we're not responsible for what you find, but we will let you onto the site. I have talked to them. They're behind this. I don't see any issue, except they said, please don't go into our pavement. As you can see by the aerial, we're not. It's very clear that we can stay out of it in order to look into this, so I don't anticipate that to be a problem at all. But they did hope that we wouldn't have to disturb their pavement. The grass and those things they didn't obviously care near as much about. One of the directions that we had at our last meeting was to get an attorney, to work with him, to look into this, to see what our options were. To be upfront with you on where we're at, we were able to find an attorney that had some previous experience on this. Roundabout way, looking through files, Lisa was able to discover it. They were not part of their original agreement, which I think is a big standing point of where you guys are at and why we're here today. But he was part of it when there was a lack of payment and him looking into what were options for the community. So he was fully aware of some of the history, which helped us kind of establish that the responsibility does look like is the Village of Cambridge. There is some things that are obviously on there that I think are subjective that was discussed, but from our standpoint and at home again, I think the direction is that we're planning on trying to deal with this and take care of it and look for options that way. The DNR talked about grants. They talked about turning this into some type of use or covering. I don't mean it's covering up as a bad thing, but on a contaminated site, it's very common to come up with a clay layer or some way to leave it in place and cover it up in a way that it would be considered resolved. Issues regarding floodplain and issues like that are still being out there will have to be dealt with. But our direction for you is not only to provide you an update and give you the ability to ask questions, it is also to understand that our next step is to go to At Home again, allow them the agreement that you see in front of you, have the direction to have something established that they understand we are going on their site, they give us permission, and they will not be held accountable for anything that's discovered while you're on their site. That you are taking that responsibility. The second thing obviously would be is to hire the contractor to come out. I do have a guy that is willing to come out that's done environmental work before with our environmental engineer for around $3,000. It is 16 holes. It's a full day. It's not, like I said, and going that, we can, like I said, look around, but from that standpoint, to have it resolved and have someone here with experience, I do like that. We'll establish that date, contact the DNR, let them know, but I'm not anticipating that until, let's say, like August. So when you look at resolve and how we're going to get this is going to be a slow process, but I do think that we're sitting really well with the DNR, at least in communication and resolve, but it's not going to go away. It's something that you're going to have to deal with. So I'm here for questions, obviously. I think the direction that we're looking for is obviously to understand that the agreement with At Home again will be our next step, and then to get this scheduled.
Okay. Questions for Joe? Joe, this $3,000, what is it, a hole, or what is he doing, by the hour, the contractor you have?
He has a price to mobilize in, and then has a price per hole. So, for example, and again, I have it in front of me, but I think it's like $1,500 to $2,000 to mobilize and like $150 to $250 per hole. So, and it's an assumption of going down 12 feet, which should be plenty to get us down to a foundation of a building and to discover what we can. So if we hit rubble and stuff like that, I don't know if that's necessarily where we want to go, but it's just to kind of get that taken care of. We can look. We didn't spend too much time trying to find someone because, to be honest with you, we knew we had to get through the steps of going on somebody else's property. And so I just know that our environmental engineer has done this before many times with other sites and has a company that's done this quite a bit. So that's why she at least got a price, so we had a ballpark for you to discuss.
All right, and the ballpark is $50,000 for that part of it, just to see what's in those borings.
Yeah, the 3,000, yeah.
3,000.
Oh, 3,000.
Okay.
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 And then this lease, or the access permission agreement, we would sign this. Has Home Again seen this?
No.
They have not.
No,
Okay.
the attorney
No,
provided it.
We just received it last week from the attorney. Joe has been in contact with At Home Again. They know that
Yes.
we were getting this drafted, so if you guys say, go ahead, we will, formalize this, get it drafted in its final form, and take it to At Home Again.
And you guys meet, what, twice a month?
Mhm.
So to me, the next step would be is let them see it, have a chance to review it, see if there's any modifications, and then bring it back, obviously, to you at the point. again, lawyer language, you can look at it, but the way I understand it is basically, we need permission to get on their site. They just want to make sure that we're going to clean up after ourselves, get access, and that you're not going to hold them responsible. The attorney did do some research into this, and obviously one of the things we asked him to look at was the TIF agreement that says when it was discovered, what was their responsibility. It kind of already stated that in that agreement, but it wasn't where it was like, it was all about the current project. It was all kind of dealing with, we're going to build this building out here, and if we find anything, you're responsible. It never dealt with something 5 years down the road. So that's why it was like, okay, if we get something updated, regurgitate what we had before, and get it in front of them, then they'll obviously have their comments, and then we'll be able to come back with you for support. Yeah.
So as I read this agreement, I see where it's an access permission agreement, but I don't see anything in this agreement that says At Home Again is not responsible for anything we find on their property.
Okay.
And so I don't know if that needs to be stated as well or not.
And again, it is mostly an access agreement with the understanding that things that are discovered in there. So I thought there was some language about it in there. Again, it can be clarified. I know that that's what At Home Again is going to ask for. That's kind of why we are at this point. So if it's something there.
Yeah, but that's just investigation sampling. It doesn't say who's responsible for what is found and the remediation of what's found. And I just don't know if At Home Again would be looking for something like that in this document as well. So.
And I'm going to let the attorney handle that part, but I would like to get it in front of him. But
And that's where Joe had mentioned our original agreement with them had said that we would be responsible for everything. So if they want that added,
Or maybe
to
there's
confirm.
just, or maybe there's just a line in here that refers
Yeah.
back to that original
Yeah.
agreement that says per original
Yeah.
agreement. You know,
Yeah.
one sentence that says per original agreement, anything found is the responsibility of the village to remediate. You know, it may be something simple like that.
I'm sure they would appreciate that regardless.
Yeah.
So if it's something that would be added, I would expect that we can just
I
pass
think
this
that's
on
a
and
sentence
do
we
it.
should probably add in, Lisa, if you can tie it back into that
Mhm.
original agreement. And then I think we'd be ready to present it to.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Paula. I mean, paragraph 2, the term of agreement, they're going to want this thing to go out there and it'll be evergreen. They're not ever going to want to see this have a date on it where it's terminated.
Well, no, again, this is just for us to access the
Yeah.
building and.
They don't
Just an
want us to
access.
have permission to be on their land.
Yeah, they're not gonna want us to do that whenever we want.
no.
No. And I don't know how you put the dates in, but we can work that through.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, you had a question?
Yeah, I had a question about the DNR and us meeting all of their timelines. Where do we sit with that, with their particular dates and timelines and your conversations that have ensued with them along
Yeah.
with our legal representation?
Well, we've met with the DNR, we've kept them informed. They have not met with our legal representation, so it's just kind of been we're keeping them up to date. Regarding schedule, they gave you a letter to say you must have this done by, I
Yes.
forget, it was something really early. We knew and they knew right away that this wasn't something that's going to be met. What they want to see is that you're not ignoring it, that you're making progress.
Okay.
The fact is that we met with them, informed them, and then we followed up with the first cover and said, this is what our plan is, but please understand we have to get permission and work through, and again, go back a step, we had to work through who we thought was responsible for this. It wasn't the village that actually buried it. So it was like, okay, how are we going to establish that? And so once we got through that, they've been kept informed, and they don't have a set date. They want to know that, okay, if we don't follow through and continue to make progress, they're going to come back to you with a hard date and make efforts to force you to do it. So I have nothing but cooperation from the DNR, and they are fully understanding with our conversations that you're not only interested in resolving this, is looking for a final resolution as well, which could be a park, it could be a more assisted living, it could be, again, whatever it is, but we're looking for a closure on this besides just cleaning up the site. And we know with the grants and other opportunities, they're willing to at least allow us to go through those options.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, with the discussions with them too, we talked about looking at grants and so forth, and they were totally supportive, knowing that those take time. They don't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So they were supportive.
Okay.
As long as you don't ignore it, I do not think the DNR is going to be the issue. And we're not.
And just like any other entity, there's turnover. So, I'd like to make sure that we have that relationship, even with that turnover that's there, so.
And I give credit to Lisa. We've had enough of your turnover here to kind of go into where we got to today. It has
Yeah.
taken us out some time, so
Yeah.
it's been a fun project.
Okay, so we have an agreement. We can modify this. Do we need to vote on this at the board, or do you want
What we-
to send it over?
What
and-
we said, we can add some language to, that will be responsible for anything found, referring back to our original agreement. We can give it to them to look at, see if they have anything. We can plug in the dates and so forth when we expect to be out doing this work.
Yeah.
Get their input and then bring it back to the board for approval and signature.
Okay. All right, so there is really no formal action right now.
We thought it was important for an update. It's been a while,
Yeah.
we've been making progress, but it's a slow project, so they thought it was important for an update. And plus, we're going to approach a business in your community, so for you to see it first, I thought was a good idea.
Appreciate you coming before us this evening, Joe.
So,
Thank you.
any other questions, otherwise?
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on. Vacation policy and the Personnel Committee. What can you tell us?
We had a meeting yesterday with personnel, and we discussed at length the verbiage that's in our vacation manual. And I'll go ahead and make the motion right now, make a motion to amend the personnel handbook to state unused vacation will be paid out at 100% at the end of each calendar year. And I would request a second.
I'll second. I'm sorry.
How much do we have any kind of a budget on this? What we're thinking we might have in unused vacation pay?
No, it's
So-
vacation pay for the year.
So I don't know of any private, non-public entity that pays out 100% of vacation, unused vacation time. So I would be amenable to rolling over a year, or rolling over 40 hours, but vacation is meant to be used and not banked, and if you don't use it, you lose it.
But sometimes things come up where you can't use it, Paula.
I know, Ted, and when that has happened, we've paid them out.
Right.
As it states in the policy. We've made accommodations for that, but
And we are also at full staff now, so there shouldn't be the kind of problems that we've had in the past. And that's one of the things we've done earlier in personnel, is that we had said, we expect you to take your vacation. And that's all part of a work-life balance, and that's what we expect. And if there's extenuating circumstances, we have in the past said, we will roll it over. And then we said, now we're done. Because we are on full staff now.
What is the current policy? I don't know.
What does the current policy state? In our-
That you use it
Yeah.
or you lose it.
vacation pay may not be carried over, that's the sentence.
Don't we also have a policy that you're allowed to give it to somebody else if you don't want it and they have a health situation?
Right.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have that, and now what we're saying is, if you haven't given away your time, you just have to, you get paid by the end of the year? Is that what personnel is recommending?
Yes, and it was unanimous. I think how we came to that conclusion is it was a show, it was to keep morale going with the new staff, to keep consistency within the staff, and also that continuity. There's been a lot of turnover within the last 7 years. So it was a show of solidarity from a board perspective to our staff to say, yes, we are fully staffed. I agree with that. But we also are in a situation where there's still some turnover. So,
And I think that should be done on a case-by-case basis,
do too.
which we have done in the past.
we've done in the
And we have done it before, that if there's extenuating circumstances, like one person
I mean, Lisa's
Was-
been paid
yes,
out, Lisa's
pieces-
been paid out unused vacation the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
So,
And so that's how we put it in the policy, that it was on a case-by-case basis.
Mm.
Because we want you to take your vacation.
Of course.
And we don't want to put into the budget where we're paying you for 40 hours, plus we're going to pay out your vacation. That could be a lot of money. Because you'll get, get all of it.
But
And
if
I
you wanna
think they,
use it all- But if you wanted them to use it all, wouldn't we be paying it out anyways?
But they would still be at work. And we'd be paying them for the work, and then we'd be paying them for their vacation time at the end of the year.
it'd be a bonus.
Yes. It'd be, in effect, a bonus for staying working.
Can I ask a question? And I'm not familiar, I haven't read the handbook or memorized it or anything, but I have experienced this in other places, and I assume what's occurred when Lisa or somebody's come and asked is because there's been just too much of a workload to
Right.
be able to take it.
Right.
I will say from my perspective, we're not at a point yet where that workload has lightened because it's still taking me time transition-wise to get used to everything. My concern as I see it is employees earn the vacation, but there's always more and more work to do that makes it harder and harder to get the work done and still take that. And the longer, from my experience in being in other places, the longer I'm there, the more I get, the harder it is for me to take because you also get more work. And I get doing it on a case-by-case basis, and you certainly don't want to set up something that encourages employees to say, well, let's just not take vacation. But as I've seen it in my past experience, it's not usually a case where anybody's saying, let's not take it. It's just impossible to take and fit in between meetings and things. And so I guess it sometimes feels like the employee is there, you're giving it to them because they earn it, but then saying, well, we can't help it if you can't take it, now you're just going to lose it.
We're not telling you can't take it.
And that's what I'm trying to clarify.
And granted,
And I don't know.
because I will argue back anyone who says, if we are not short-staffed, I will argue back anyone who says, I can't take the time off. Because no one is that important, and the staff can always find ways to, I think we can always find ways to backfill. And you will always have too much work to take a vacation. I guarantee you, you will always have too much
The
work.
concern is the ability to still get that work done that's required by timelines, whether it be election or Department of Revenue reporting or.
I think that might have been the mentality of the former personnel committee that.
The staff is very important, Paula.
Right, that
You
might have
said
been.
it wasn't important.
No,
That's what I heard.
We're trying to take on, where we want to invest in our staff, where we want to keep that morale up, where we want to keep the continuity of the staff. And I think it's a show of solidarity that we can do that for our staff if we can just say, hey, if you don't use it because we keep putting things on their plate.
Then let's hire someone else with that money. And they can take their vacations. Because you cannot continue, if you can't take a vacation and you continue to work like that, you are no good to anybody after a while.
And we're willing.
What?
There's a lot of times that there's not time to take vacation, maybe 2 years in a row.
Okay.
So,
Well, we're not taking into consideration variables. For instance, if an employee has a sick child, they've used up most of their vacation time already. Or it's just something that we have got to make standard. It's the same across the board. I don't like this case-by-case basis because it's just going to cause hard feelings among
And I don't
all.
like the use or lose situation either.
But I have it at my job.
I had it at mine.
But you're working for a much bigger place.
I just think use it or lose it is kind of a standard.
It doesn't have to be our standard.
And I understand that,
But why can't we
And
do it on a
we can-
case by
we
case
One
can
at a
just-
time, one at a time. Go ahead, Paul.
We can just disagree on this, Chris.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I just disagree. I think our current policy is fine. I think it has served us well. I think that we have paid out. No one has lost vacation time in past years because we have always paid it out. So no one's lost it. So I don't, and Ted, I take great offense to, number one, you raising your voice at me every time you speak to me, and secondly, inferring that I don't care about our staff.
So that's the way I took it.
Okay, Kathy, you had something you wanted to say?
I just think the policy was set in place so that people take their vacations. And if we don't have enough people that you can take your vacation, then if everybody's taking their vacation time and taking it as a bonus at the end of the year, then let's take that money and hire another staff person.
Don't you think our administrator can police that?
I will comment, in the past, I will sit down with, before I was the administrator even, with the guys and say, okay, in September, you guys still have this much time. When can we use it? And they'll work together to get schedules, to coordinate, to try to use their time. In the office itself, there's 3 of us. Vicki is paid 100% through utilities, which is something in the past she used to be paid partially village, and my position would be paid partially water and sewer. I think we have to go back to that. Obviously, Vicki's gone this week. We're still taking utility bills. We're doing final rates. We're doing utility work. If I'm gone, she's not doing payroll. She's not doing village, a lot of the stuff I do. She does a lot of our secretarial type stuff. We are still in a transition period. The transition doesn't happen overnight. I am getting a lot better at passing things off. When Barb came in, it was tax time, and then we moved right into the audit. We're still getting caught up. We're still getting the questions from the auditors. Why did Andrew do this? Where's his documentation on this? So it's so much time, we're still in that transition. I am,
Still backpedaling.
yeah, I am handing things off more. If I'm leaving, I haven't taught Barb our payroll system yet. That's one thing we haven't had time for.
So we need more office help.
At times, yes. A year from now, a year and a half from now, when we're more caught up and we have had the opportunity to cross-train more, if Vicki is on, partially village.
And we talked
We
about
can-
that about 6 months ago, didn't we?
But right now, this
Yeah.
year, she's budgeted
Right, okay.
water
But
and sewer.
I know we talked about it before.
We can train her for more village things. Right now, she is paid strictly through ratepayers.
Chris?
My question is this, Lisa. When former administrators, former workers here have left, what did they get paid out for
They
vacation?
get paid out in full the vacation time that they have,
Okay, 100%.
100%.
They didn't lose it.
They did not lose it.
Okay, so those are
somebody-
people that are
When
leaving.
they're leaving?
Yes,
Which I hate
because
that.
they
No, I
had
don't like that either. I-
they had
We tried
earned
to
their
train-
vacation.
Oh.
Yep.
January
The
1st.
vacation they had
January
accrued.
1st, you get 4
That was
weeks.
the
No,
after
it's
you-
not, it wasn't.
But you get it up front,
Right.
beginning of the
Yes.
year.
At the, yep,
Up front.
after.
That's
X-
something I would have adjusted in our
After your
personnel
first year.
policy.
After your first year, you've earned it, we prorate, so January 1st, you get your vacation for the year. You've earned it. If they haven't used it, they get paid out. People have retired, leave here 5 weeks before their retirement, use their vacation time, So as people leave, they're paid out in full.
Right.
If they're leaving by their own choice, retiring.
So if we're willing to make that exception for people that are leaving, why wouldn't we do that for people that are already established within our staff? That's my argument.
Okay, so then I'm saying is, right now they're still saying they're in transition. Why would we change a policy while we're in transition? If they get to a year from now and they say, we still can't take vacations, then we need to take about getting some different people. So in the meantime, keep the policy the way it is and go on a case-by-case basis. Because if we need to know, if we do not have,
Yeah, somebody have their phone on?
Yes,
can you shut it off?
Yeah.
Can you shut it
it'll
off?
stop.
Oh, okay.
It stopped.
It's relaxing.
All right.
So why would we change a policy because we're in transition?
Because that's what personnel decided to do.
Well, that was the recommendation of personnel.
Yes.
But people can change their mind based
Yeah.
on new information.
And so I'm saying,
and-
why don't we keep what we have in place right now until we're another year? And then I said, look back at it again, and if we still need more help in the office, then we need to look at that. And that's where that money would come from, is from all this unpaid time that nobody's taking because they can't take the time off.
But wouldn't that only fund that particular position for at most, say, 2 people
We'll
taking it
Yeah, we'll see.
50 days out of the
Yeah,
year?
well, we'll see. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see.
Well, there's a
But if we need help, we
call
need
to
help.
question.
Yeah, I'm going to. Okay. Well, I wanted to get your opinion. And Paula, you said something, and I'm just wondering, do we give vacation pay at the beginning of the year, or do we have that where you have to earn it?
It's
beginning
of the year.
That's something that I would have.
In our
Had I
handbook,
been on personnel, I would have adjusted that. Yeah.
in our
Okay.
handbook, actually, I brought it down. It, so upon hiring, you receive 5 days. After 1 year of service, you receive 10 days. So, 5 years is 15. At January 1st, that vacation that you have earned goes into your vacation bank. So Andrew left in February. He had just
You just,
been re-upped for, if it is one of those years where you are earning a different level, it's prorated, for how much of the year was in each category. But January 1st, that goes into your account, and you have it to use.
well, even in private business, that's what you see.
And it
I've
was,
always had, how many weeks of vacation, if I
it was
was,
different when I was hired because I negotiated.
To
getting
have
it
a
right
higher-
or
because of other
negotiated,
plans.
yeah.
And I have
Well,
to
we-
I
say,
brought
as
that up in
the,
case somebody was thinking about that.
yeah, right,
Vacation for new employees is prorated from the date of hire to the end of the calendar year,
yeah,
but,
That's after that.
right,
Yeah.
which is what this states, but
yeah.
Yep.
they get it all day one,
Mhm.
which I think is, which we learned also when Veronica did that, and we had
Yep.
talked about that
Mhm.
probably needs to be changed.
All right. So we can give that back
Yeah,
to
we can.
personnel and have them look at that issue and have it where vacation is
It's
earned.
prorated
So much
for
each
the
month.
year.
Yeah, however we
Through
do
the
it.
end
it's
of
not
the
just-
I've
year.
seen it where you get it all at the first of the year, but you can
Based
use it all.
upon
Yep.
The previous period of time when you were.
No, one of my employers, you got it all right off the bat. You could use it off the bat. But if you left before the end of the year and you had taken more than you had actually earned, you had to pay it back.
You have to pay it back.
Okay,
And then-
Right.
it's the same thing.
It's the same
Yeah.
concept, it's just you're
Okay.
not going to leave
All
and
right.
get a bonus for leaving.
Okay, but that's not the issue here.
No,
It's-
that's not.
It's right now,
Sorry.
we've got the recommendation from Personnel Committee. And we have a first, was there a second on that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, let's call the question. As far as changing our personnel policy, let's see here, how do you?
Can
you
you
guys
read back
written
the
this up?
motion?
To amend the personnel handbook to state unused vacation will be paid out at the end of each year at 100%. Motion was made by Brunick, seconded by Christensen.
Thank you.
All right. All those in favor of, pardon me?
Roll call.
Oh, you want roll call?
I think that'd be a good idea. wouldn't it?
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it can go
It's the
with,
same.
we'll go with roll call, please.
Okay. Trustee Hollenbeck,
No.
Breinig,
Yes.
Whitwer,
You can abstain if you don't want, if you don't know how you might. That's always an option as well, Eric. I just don't know if you know that.
Abstain.
Cunningham,
No.
Christensen,
Yes,
Kumbier,
Yes.
McNally.
I know what this issue is. Personnel Committee will have work to do. I'll go with yes. That they will have work to do to change the policy. But I'll vote yes on this.
I'm confused by your statement just now. That was changing the policy?
Yeah, changing this policy, I go along with this, but I also think I would like the Personnel Committee to go back and look at vacation pay and have it where it's earned, and then you can have it. Now, if you take it
That's a whole
early,
different-
That's a whole different subject.
I understand that, and that's why I'm saying I'm going yes on this.
So
but
what are the
I'm asking-
numbers?
Motion carries.
It carried.
Motion carried.
It's 4-2.
4 yes, 2 no, 1 abstention.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Sorry, did you?
No, you have, no, I wasn't.
I was typing it at the same time. that
I
you
was
said
just
it.
marking
Can-
who I called.
Can I ask personnel to revisit this in a year?
Yes, you
Put
may.
that on the agenda, because if we're still in transition in another year, then we need to really discuss staffing.
Right.
All right.
We can revisit it, but I also have a lot of confidence in our administrator that she can police this item.
Well, let's go ahead with revisiting it. Lisa, can you make this part of the calendar so that in 2020, in the first meeting in July, we are talking about whether or not this was successful? All right. Okay. Moving on, we've got loan options, water and sewer for the Ahmanson remodel.
So in your packet, you had a memo from me regarding the borrowing that was provided to me both through Ellers, or not just both, but I also looked up what the state trust fund allowed, what Badger Bank got numbers back to us, and Hometown Bank also got numbers back to us. The one difference being Ellers, of course, was looking at our entire financial package that we have with current debt, existing debt, and what was callable and such, and what they put together in everything included refunding the 2011 bonds that are out there. Part of the issues with this new borrowing were the fact that the Ahmanson Center doesn't qualify for non-taxable, so it's a little bit different in how they did it, but in their calculations, you can see in the memo, which I did not, it's in my packet. I was on the road while I was doing it, so I emailed it. So you can see everybody's rates that were presented, and Ellers, of course, as I stated, was looking at our entire financing and prior debt or existing debt that we currently had. State Trust Fund, theirs would be all new money, and their rate was 3.75%. The rates with Hometown Bank, all of these were based on a 10-year amortization. That's what we were looking at, because notes generally only go out 10 years. So when we're looking at annual or semi-annual payments, Hometown Bank, the taxable rate is prime less, 50% or 0.50%, currently at 5% with a floor of 350. The tax exempt is prime less 1.8, currently 3.7 with a floor of 250. Their fixed rate option is, the taxable is 4.66%, tax exempt with it 5-year fixed, meaning it's going to fluctuate those last 5 years, was at 3.7%, and they'd have no closing costs. Badger Bank, their $200,000, which would qualify for tax qualified borrowing, is 3.19%, equal principal and interest, annual or semi-annual, no prepayment penalty. The non-tax qualified, the $110,000 would be at 4.04% fixed rate. Back onto Ellers then, what their recommendation was borrowing the $310,000 plus refunding the 2011 GO bonds. Total related costs and borrowing would be a total of $1.14 million for a 10-year term, and the rates would fluctuate between 1.85% to 2.55%. Their financing plan, they show what the savings would be, which was just over $48,000 in savings, which would more than cover the costs that were involved for the bond attorney and their costs to go out. They'd put it out for a sale. But those rates that I quoted were estimated based on a recent similar sale that they had. They used as a guide for the rates for us.
I'll make a motion to move forward on borrowing the funding of the water project and remainder of the Ahmanson Center remodel, along with refunding the 2011 GO bonds per the recommendation of Ehlers.
I'll second.
All right, discussion. Is there this is coming before us. Is there a reason why it's coming directly to us? I know it would eventually, but it didn't go to audit and finance?
Because the board made a
The
recommendation.
board made recommendations and asked us to get.
Yeah, but audit and finance, I just,
The board had recommended that staff go back, research, and bring back
Back
the
to-
information
Alright.
from it,
Okay.
is why it came directly here.
Yeah,
And
but I think traditionally in the past, when that's happened, it's gone to the Audit and Finance Committee, and then the Audit and Finance Committee made a recommendation and brought it to the board.
I apologize for missing that
And me too.
process.
all right. Other questions? So we're going to have obligations outstanding for $1,140,000.
We'd have that either way, though,
Yeah.
Mark.
Right.
And the fact that we can save that little bit of money, the 48,000, I mean, we're not saving all that 48,000 because there are administrative costs to doing this, but if that covers it, then,
We are shortening the term of
Right.
that.
which will help us when we have to borrow more money down the road to redo Blue Jay Way.
Or
Yeah.
Melster site, or...
Yeah, or Melsters, there we go,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right, I understand.
Or new EMT employees.
Okay.
Name any millions of things.
Yeah. All right, so we're looking at $1,140,000. Other, we have a motion and a second. Before we have a roll call on this, because it is money and it's substantial. Any other questions?
I just want to clarify, we really aren't looking at $1 million. What we're looking at is we're refinancing almost $750,000.
Exactly.
So it's really only
790.
about 300,000 net new money that we're looking
310.
at.
Okay.
Refinance it
And-
at a better rate.
Right, and we're
Yes.
refinancing at a better rate.
And it will come back to the board again after documentation and everything is put together initially by Ehlers. They'll bring it back, and then they'll bring back the final as well, once they've got the sale.
Isn't
I believe it'll be in the two
Isn't-
steps.
200,000 being paid out of the
Usually is.
water paying?
Yeah, water is paying a portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So which bank are we going with then?
The motion was
We're
to
gonna
allow-
Others would
bonds.
put it out to a sale.
All right,
For bonds.
okay, all right. And they'll be successful, because they always have. All right. Let's have individual voice vote on this, please.
Roll call vote.
Roll call.
Um,
I'll get it. Yep.
Trustee Brynick.
I'll
Yes.
read that book.
Whitworth.
Yes.
Cunningham.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Kumbir.
Yes.
Hollenbeck.
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. All right, motion passes. Away we go. Now we get into the Blue Jay Way, Town of Oakland agreement. And are we okay to go into this right away? Because this may take a little bit of time. You want to just call it a quick adjournment?
No, I'd like to make a motion that we review this and take a look at what the options are, and at the next meeting in closed session, talk about how we want to negotiate with another entity. I am not comfortable talking about negotiations in open session.
They could be watching.
I'll second.
Well, okay. Let me just say this. I have been informed that the Town of Oakland is not putting any of this in private session. It's all out there, and whatever they're doing. And so it seems that, for us to go into closed and they're not, and we're talking about the same road, I'm not comfortable with. It seems like we're trying to hide something. I understand. And then there's one other thing. I won't be here at the next meeting.
I won't either.
Okay.
Well, there's probably not a quorum either. I won't either.
When's the meeting?
Still
Three,
have
still
four.
have four.
Still have a quorum.
Yeah.
So my concern is that, I'm not talking about the road and whether we need to do the road or not. This really is a negotiation.
Of an agreement.
Of an agreement. And I just think, it's not that I'm trying to hide anything. I think that there is a reason why we have statutes in place that says when you are negotiating an agreement, you can go into closed session. And I think we should take advantage of that, regardless of what our counterparts are doing.
When you say agreement, are you referring to the intergovernmental
Yes.
agreement that we have?
Mhm. Yep.
Not just the specific project?
Correct.
Well, I mean, you can vote on it, but I'm going to tell you now, I will not vote in agreement with that. I think this should all be done in open session.
Well, what about hiring somebody, at $200 or $300 an hour for dispute resolution? Because that's what, we have a dispute right now. We got to somehow resolve it.
Yeah.
And we're not making any progress the way we're doing it right now.
I think I made a motion.
And I second it.
Okay.
So,
Can you give this the motion again?
Yeah, my motion was to postpone the discussion of this until the next meeting, when we can go and discuss the negotiations that we want to embark on in closed session.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
aye.
Aye. Okay.
Can opposed raise their hands, please? Thank you.
All right. So we're back to now talking about this. Okay.
I don't want to take a break, because
All right.
I need to keep going.
All right. We can keep going. We're probably going to need you, young man. Lisa, you put this together as far as the, you and Tom, we had talked about this.
Yeah.
The various scenarios that can play out, because I don't know how this is going to go.
The state does have a program for dispute for resolutions between municipalities. It is a cost of $200 to $300 an hour, plus travel. There's a lot that are located in Madison, so the cost for travel isn't as big of a... their decisions are not binding. If an agreement is agreed upon by both parties, they do require a new agreement be drafted so that you have something to work off into the future then. Yeah. In my view, if no agreement is reached, that gives both municipalities the option to say, is the agreement we have worthwhile, and possibly then an out for both sides if no agreement can be reached. There has been talk about the overlay and us taking ownership of the road and the two homes. Again, neither side is going to force annexation, and can we, annexation's a whole different beast when we're talking about the homes themselves. When, in talking with Tom, the one kind of new twist to it all, the estimates had been on, if we did the road, we'd do it to village standards. We would upgrade the water and sewer at the same time. After a little research, this water was in the 1960s. That is owned by the village. The sewer system was actually put in 1982, and that is actually owned by the town of Oakland, not us. So there was some discussion, down the line, when one or the other of those go, it's in the best interest to replace both if the street is torn up already. So do we wait until that time and say, if one of them goes, we're going to open the road, you're going to do sewer, we'll do water, we'll split the cost of the road, and, then if we want to switch ownership or anything at that time. So that was one discussion. The other thing on the table is always, do we just void the agreement? Legally, it's your road, deal with it.
Did you have this discussion with Connie Anderson?
Connie Anderson is retired.
Okay.
I have tried reaching out. I did talk to her staff. She was going to forward a message to Connie that we wanted to talk to her. I have not heard from Connie. So
She's off on an island somewhere.
So, she drafted it. The question was if we could get the intent from her, what the intent of some of the language was. But she is retired, and I have not. I've tried reaching out.
Yeah, because we had both Don Treeloff and Steve that were there and told us what they...
Essence of the agreement.
Yeah, what they thought the intent in Oakland's idea of what the intent was was a little different.
But did they have anybody there that was there at the time?
No, at the time they were their own firm.
Right.
They had since moved with Stafford Rosenbaum. Paul Kent is with Stafford still, but he was not part of the discussions.
All right.
So I think option 4 is a non-starter because Oakland said they will not void the agreement. They already stated that at our last meeting. So I think option 4 is a non-starter. I would love to void the agreement. I think that's what we should do. But the agreement can only be voided if we both agree. And Oakland has already stated they will not agree to that.
Because, the agreement really plays into Oakland. It favors Oakland.
Right. Absolutely it
I
does.
would, if I was in their shoes, I wouldn't keep
The only one of these that for me is that I think we can realistically do is item 2.
But it's not bringing it up to village standards when we spend the money.
Then it's not bringing it up, it's not a village road. It's a town of Oakland road.
It's that annexed homes that's going to be the issue.
Well, we split the cost of the overlay. And when and if we can annex in those homes at that point, then we can take ownership of the road, which really is what the agreement states right now.
So this last...
But I'm willing to split the cost of the overlay instead of making Oakland pay for it all themselves, if that can get us past this point of contention.
It's that annexation that's going to be the rough
And
road to
Tom
hoe
did
right there.
provide, I don't have, there's a lot of information, I didn't put it all in, but what an overlay, how long we could anticipate that to last, what a
Lucky 10 to 15 years,
pulverization, what, so.
Yeah, we'd anticipate the service life of the utilities, the sanitary sewer and the water main, to maybe extend 40 or 50 years from today. At that time, you'd have to do something to replace utilities and then reconstruct the road. We'd suggest to plan on replacing the village's water main within the next 20 to 25 years, in 40 years at the most. If it's reconstructed prior to that time frame, we'd suggest taking a hard look at replacing the utilities at that time also. Now, I've provided some estimated service lives for different resurfacing methods. Met with Lisa and Mark last Wednesday and just kind of they gave me some direction on what information I could share here tonight that would maybe help you make some decisions. Estimated construction costs to mill and overlay with one lift of 2-inch asphalt, so they'd mill off 2 inches and put back 2 inches. You could expect that to last roughly 10 to 15 years. And of course, you're going to extend that life more if you take some proactive measures like crack filling and seal coating in that 10 to 15 years. The estimated cost to do the milling and overlaying would be roughly $60,000. And that's keeping it as a rural cross-section with ditches. It basically would look the same as it does today, except to be new asphalt. That's one option. Another option would be to pulverize an overlay. And we've had some really good performance with this kind of rehabilitation, we'd call it, where you pulverize the existing asphalt in place, and you do that to a depth that includes some of the gravel road base beneath. That stirs it up, we compact it and build a new crown on the road, and then overlay it with 2 lifts of asphalt, 1 3/4 of binder surface or binder material, and then 1.5 inches of asphalt surface. So you'd have about 3 1/4 inches total. And there you could extend that life to 15 to 20 years. And the estimated cost for that is roughly $85,000. So you got 2 layers of asphalt, a bit thicker, and you've added to your base because you take that existing asphalt and turn it into base for the new asphalt. Then third, a reconstruct to village standards with curb and gutter and sidewalk. The service life of the pavement would be roughly 25 to 30 years. Again, you'd have to take some steps in that 25 to 30 years, such as crack filling and seal coating, maybe a number of times to extend that life. But you could achieve 30 years with that type of cross-section, and then obviously the concrete would last a bit longer than that. Still, estimated cost for that is $350,000, and that's just for the street. It includes the curb and the sidewalk. Now, those are accessible features, $40,000 for curb roughly, and $40,000 for sidewalk. And that'd be 2 sides, tip to tail, and that does not include the cost for water main replacement or storm sewer or sanitary sewer. I think if you were to do all that, it'd be over $800,000 to do a comprehensive utility and road reconstruct. We talked a little bit last week about, is there any advantage to the village taking over the sanitary sewer that's now owned by the town of Oakland? And I guess our recommendation would be no. It'd be best left with the town. There's really no cost incentive that you would reap any benefits from that. So that would be good just to leave as it is. One other thing we discussed was if both utilities were replaced, it makes sense for the town and the village to split the cost of the street at the time of the reconstruction. Now, I looked through the agreement. It's clear that the road is owned by the town. They're receiving road aid. The road aid is determined by an equation that the DOT sets forth. It's either by per mile or it's by a share of costs. And it depends how much the village or town is spending on road repairs. Depends on how you are paid those general transportation aid monies. The town has 50 miles of road, and the rate per mile for all the municipalities in Wisconsin for 2019 is $2,389 per mile. If you do the calculations, you can calculate it by rate per mile or by share of costs, and that means you take your 6-year average costs on what you spend on your roads, and then you can take a percentage that the DOT comes up with. That this year it's 16.28%, and whatever higher amount, either the share of costs or the rate per mile, you get to take the higher one. So the town is right now at 50 miles at $2,389 is roughly getting $120,000 in road aid for 2019. The village only has 10 miles of road. If you were to take that rate per mile, you'd only be receiving $24,000, but because your 6-year average costs on what you're spending on your streets is $517,000, you get to take 16% of that figure. You're receiving $84,000 for 10 miles of road. The town is receiving $120,000 for 50 miles of road. They're spending about $60,000 a year more on their roads than the village is, but they have 5 times as much. For them to be paid the same way the town would be, they'd have to spend, instead of $575,000, they'd have to spend $737,000 to start being paid at that same share of costs rate. I don't know if that made sense to you. But it's no advantage if the village is seeking to take over the road. It's not going to increase the amount of money you receive, because the amount of money you received is based on how much you invest in your roads each year. That's not going to go up because you have 1,100 feet of new road. Okay?
We don't want to take over the road.
I'm just explaining. These are options that you're considering. If the town retains the road, they're going to get $2,389 times 1,100 divided by 5280, so like $1,000 at the most. Okay. So if they would give that over to the village, they'd only be losing that $1,000 roughly. So that said, again, looking through the agreement, the village has agreed to maintain the road. What that means is what you have to decide. I don't think the agreement is clear enough for you to say with certainty that it only means snow plowing and pothole filling. That's how I would interpret it, but someone else might say, oh, it means crack filling and seal coating too. It's for you to work out with the town. For them to come and say that it's the village's responsibility to do a mill and overlay, I would argue that that's not maintenance, that's rehabilitation. Okay? Someone else might argue differently, but that's the stance that I would take, and I think that is reasonable to assume that. If you do anything more than just continue to maintain the road, you're doing the town a favor. Okay? I think to further this discussion along with the town in good faith is to revisit the agreement and try to come up with a clearer agreement and discard the old one. Either that, or if there's a way to get out of it, if that's what you choose to do, that's certainly an option, I think, as well. I don't know that any agreement is good unless both parties agree to it. But how it's worded, that's more of a question for your attorney. I can give you cost estimates or any kind of cost breakdowns that you like, if that's helpful going forward. I'm happy to come to the joint board meeting just to be there as a sounding board or just a source to answer questions, so.
Okay. Questions?
You and I had a talk one day, and you were telling me that you said Oakland's finances, they start out $50,000 in the hole every year? This is what you told me? That you would talk, and so they have to start off with financing $50,000 every year?
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I don't care when it comes to their roads. And I'm going to be like the Dwight Christensen here. I'm the old person here that have lived here forever. All these years, everybody in Oakland was like, I want to live in Oakland because they pay less taxes. I'm not going to live in Cambridge because the taxes are too high. So now their road needs to be done. I don't want to spend 1 penny of our taxpayers' money on their road. If they have problems with their finances, they need to up their taxes.
Good point.
Well,
I don't want to spend our taxpayer money on their road.
That's the
Not one
standpoint on
penny.
that too, and I think it's interesting, I think that clarification that we have a professional who says, it's not maintenance, it's rehabilitation. And that is not what our agreement says, we take care of the maintenance.
yep.
So if the road has to be rehabilitated or resurfaced, then that is on the town of Oakland because they own it.
And they're going to have to raise their taxes to
And they
pay
don't
for
want
it.
to, they don't want to consider giving us that road or anything else, so.
Well, the only way we can take the road is if we annex the houses. We cannot take that road if we don't annex the houses.
And he even just said, us taking the road.
And there's no
isn't-
advantage to us.
There's no advantage
Even
to
with
us. It would
annex-
cost
even with
us, yes.
annexation.
Right,
It
even
would,
with
it would
annexation.
still cost us.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm not in favor of giving them 1 penny of our taxpayer money towards that road.
I got a question for you. Thanks for coming here, Tom. Appreciate it. Very insightful. One of the questions I have has to do with the sewer that is owned by Oakland. It was constructed in 1982. So what's the shelf life on that sewer?
Again, it may last another 40 to 50 years. And then there, at that point, you could do lining or you could do replacement. Really depends on the condition. It's PVC pipe, which
It was
tends to
PVC.
last longer than the clay tile of older days. So it's really how it's taken care of.
So I guess my question, I'll get right to the point, is what's going to last longer, the water main that's owned by us or the sewer?
The sewer will probably outlast the water main just because
Okay.
of the 20 years that the water main's been in the ground.
Right.
I got one, Mark.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. One thing that we're missing on that road right now is stormwater management. There doesn't seem to be any out there.
Right, you've got
And when
ditches.
it rains really hard, and the water runs wherever it feels like running.
Mhm.
And there's, you know, that was one of the problems I had, that, you know, if we just do an overlay, if we had a good stormwater management along with doing an overlay, the road might last even longer, but we don't have that, so.
Right.
And that's expensive to put stormwater in there.
I guess a couple of things here, and we're talking tonight only about Blue Jay Way, and there are 2 other streets that are here with Potter and North, and this is silent. I mean, what we've asked Tom to do. And that's where there's a larger number of residences, that there's only 2 that are on here that are not in the village of Cambridge, but there's like 20 that are on the other 2 streets. And that's where you're really going to get some pushback. And that pushback is going to come from the forced annexation. because the town of Oakland is not for this. So the only way that I saw getting around that, and I don't know if it'll happen, and we'd have to be willing to do it, is if we could both agree to go to some sort of independent third party, and then it would have to be binding. And I don't know if either municipality would agree to that.
But again, what advantage do we have by doing that? We're not going to get anything by taking over these roads. I think we abide by the current agreement, or if Oakland wants to void the agreement, we can void it. Those, I think, are our two options.
Well, if they want to void it, but then where are we going to go to?
If they void it, then we don't have to do maintenance of that road anymore.
Okay, but who's going to do at least the 60,000?
The town of Oakland.
Town of Oakland. It's
Town
their
of
Because
road.
it's their road.
Their road.
It's their road.
Okay.
But the alternative is go with the agreement and continue.
And we'll continue to maintain it after they resurface their
Absolutely.
road, after whatever maintenance, after whatever rehabilitation they need to do on their road, we can continue to maintain
Just
it.
snowplow it. and-
But if they say, if we have to rehabilitate the road, we want to take back over maintenance of it,
That's
then
fine, too.
they can have it.
Well,
You should define maintenance.
Yeah, there's a lot of in that agreement.
yeah,
that should be defined.
that's where this thing's going to come down. I mean, we can say that, but then they're going to come back and say, we've been giving you the road for the last, what, 2006.
A
Doing the
thousand,
maintenance.
And we've been
we've
doing
been,
it.
we've been plowing. Believe me, the plowing has probably cost more
Yeah.
than
Yeah, and the
$1,000
And the
a month.
potholes and all
And the
that stuff.
crap. Exactly.
But they could argue, and
They're
then,
getting a heck of a deal.
They've been getting a great deal.
They can argue it, but the state is still giving them the road aid.
Yeah.
It's, so they can
I
argue
think
over
that
it.
is a reasonable interpretation. Maintenance is not replacement. I mean, you
I
use
agree.
the word rehabilitation. I agree with that, but that may take another voice to get that. Because we're not going to go and do what they did. They went ahead and hired an attorney, and they gave us a legal opinion from the
They
attorney.
gave us an email. It wasn't a true, the email said, yep, maintenance means they'd have to replace the road. Well,
Well, I
we
pay an
could-
attorney enough, they're gonna say whatever I want.
Right, and that's what I told them already. And that, we can go get one ourselves, and are you gonna look at ours any stronger or, with less enthusiasm than we looked at yours? No, no. We're only wasting money. So can we go to arbitration? Yes, but then I don't want it to be something where when we're done, the losing side, and there will be one, says, well, we don't like that decision that was made, so we're not going to live with it. And that's where we'd have to agree to it with binding that we went in, and then we'd have to have it with a third party. But if we don't want to do that,
I had a feeling at this point, they wouldn't even wanna split the costs with the third party.
you're kind of right on that. I've already, I'm looking at options here, and
Yeah.
I don't think that that's going to happen. So what are we
Well, how do we
saying then?
get Blue Jay Way fixed or repaired?
They have to decide, it's their road. That's the only thing I can see. It's their road. I
Sue?
can't imagine another municipality coming in and saying to us, let us help you with that, can we give you some money?
Yeah. Susan, you were going to say something?
No, I was just gonna say, I go with number one and let them pay the whole thing.
So I'll make a motion that our negotiation, or our offer to the town of Oakland is that we maintain the current agreement, or that we continue as stated in the current agreement, and they are responsible for the rehabilitation of the road.
Rehabilitation needs to be in that.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. Further questions? All right. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of passing that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay? Me? I think we should go with, go to the state for dispute resolution providers. And I say that, and full disclosure, I sat next to these people, the intergovernmental relations folks, and I asked in their professional experience, when municipalities get to an impasse where an agreement is not clear, what normally happens, and they say, if you get one of these mediators, it's amazing that you will come to an agreement, and both sides will be agreeable to that agreement. What we have in place is not a formal state-sanctioned agreement, so it doesn't meet state standards, so in its current form isn't binding, but in its current form is binding. So it's this quasi that I don't like.
Good point.
Well, I know this isn't part of the discussion because it's our, but my opinion is still, it's their road, let them pay for it.
No.
If it's not a state-sanctioned agreement, okay, we can live without the agreement, I
I
don't care.
just don't want to kick this disagreement about the agreement
Yeah.
down the road.
Yeah.
Sure, we fix the road, have them fix the road,
Yeah.
that's great, but there's a bigger issue here that I don't like, that there's this,
And that could be a separate
And
issue
I think,
later.
yeah, we should bring
Should
that up
be.
as a, that's a good point,
That's a
Eric.
good-
I think we should bring that up as a separate agreement,
Separate issue
point.
later.
Mhm.
Well, that
we've got
could be-
other roads to deal with, not
Yeah.
just this Blue Jay Way.
Yep.
Right.
Well, we
And if you
can,
drive down North Street, you'll
Right.
agree to that.
Well, we had that lady that was from North Street that was
Right.
there complaining
Well, that'd
that
be the end of the world for that.
if we put curb and gutter in, then her
So,
well would run
Right.
dry.
do we want Tom to be at that intergovernmental meeting so he can give us his opinion from maintenance versus rehabilitation?
Yes.
Tom, would you be able to attend that meeting?
On the 31st.
I think so.
I did get word from Oakland today. It is being held at Oakland because this room is being used. Both rooms are being used. But it is us hosting the meeting. So we will be doing the agenda and hosting the meeting at their location.
And it will be later, like the 7 o'clock?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can.
all right, so we're all right on this first part, but now getting back to what Eric is saying, the second part, and that is the whole arbitration. All right. Do we, if we don't prevail on the first part, I don't think we're going to, and they're not going to agree, do we want to then throw up the idea that we go to arbitration?
I have a question. What do you mean they're not going to agree?
Well, I don't think they're going to. They're just going to say, well, you know,
They're going to dig in with their document they have
Yeah.
in front of them and saying, you signed this document. And it's good, it's binding for 10 years. We signed it in, what, 2016?
It renewed in
6,
2000.
it renewed in
2000.
6.
Renewed itself in 2016,
Right.
which is a strange clause to have in it.
I know, I agree.
Yes. And the opt-out was only in the first 10 years, not in, after that, once it renewed. There was no opt-out language.
I like the idea of what Eric is saying, and that is to get it back to somebody else. But the only way that makes sense is if we're willing to go with the binding decision. And I don't know if we want to,
Well, even if we would go with the binding decision with Oakland. go
well,
with the
that,
binding-
the only way we would enter into it is if it was a simultaneous.
Following up on what Eric said a little, when I was talking to the state, they did say oftentimes it's amazing how they can bring the groups together. They may pull other things of interest that aren't necessarily in this agreement to, you know, as we look at it, we don't see that much for us in this agreement, that they do look at the whole picture and may pull other things in to get both parties to agree. So it's not strictly looking at the language of this agreement and what does maintenance mean. You know, they do expand the scope and to get to those agreements, but
Not to muddy the waters, but one other perspective to consider is that 80% of the residents on that street are village residents. And they pay the same tax rate as everybody else in the village who have curb and gutter and sidewalk in front of their homes. So they're having to deal with a road that's dilapidated and not very functional. And they're paying the same tax rate as everybody else in the village. So just to look at it from trying to be fair to everybody in the village, you know, is that reason for the village to consider footing a portion of the bill? So, sorry for making your decision even harder.
We already made a motion, and we already accepted it.
Yeah, it's
So-
just, it's the next one if we had a fallback. And Tom, I understand, because this last weekend, I drove my little bicycle down there and I stopped in at a residence. And he works in one town and she works over there, and he has experience with this kind of stuff. And he was like, I don't know what you're gonna do. I mean, he just, and he knows it about these towns and villages. So, but getting back to it, we want to.
Maybe that's our,
But you guys, this is why we should have been in closed session.
Right.
Because if we say we are willing to pay half, that's going to be their starting point, because all they have to do is watch this.
Well,
This is
we're-
why I said we needed to do
Okay,
negotiation in closed session.
we're not there. We're thinking about now the second part. If
But-
we want to go ahead and suggest arbitration.
what's their legal counsel going to say?
Their legal counsel is our legal, Mary Bailing is both of our
Okay.
legal counsels. That is why she will not give any opinions on
So
the
where did this email
current
come from?
agreement. They hired
from the
an
state?
outside,
Oh.
no, they hired
Board.
an outside attorney to
Yeah.
give them the definition of maintenance.
I was going to say, I'm not willing to pay taxpayer monies for a road, as Kathy stated, that we don't own. I would be willing to negotiate, to go to arbitration if they share the cost with us.
I agree with that.
Well, they could share the arbitration. I think, it'd be $3,000 and each one of us writes a check for $1,500.
Right.
But when we get that final decision, are we going to accept it?
No, I think we go in there with, either we do or we don't. Because I don't think we can make it, I mean, their arbitration rules are, it's non-binding.
And they're gonna grab onto that, just as we are talking about it right now.
And then the whole thing is just going to fall back onto them.
Well, one thing that does is it gives us a conduit to take away that agreement that's in place right now.
Right.
If no-
And that's what I
can come
I
to
mean,
no
that-
agreement.
Yeah.
maybe we have an opportunity to negotiate
And that, to me, is
an
worth
agreement that's
$3,000.
actually workable.
To do away with that.
Yeah, you hope for something workable. If not,
Then,
can we agree
Clean-
to disagree and
And then
dissolve
we'll both
it?
go our
And
separate
dissolve it.
ways and, yep.
In a way, that's 3,000 well spent.
Yeah.
If you can get an agreement, or if you can't. If
It's
an
still-
arbitrator can't,
Have we missed the time frame for getting this road redone this year already?
Yeah, we'll get
it's not
done.
going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going
No.
to happen this year, but.
So we kind of have time for,
Well, it'll be there for next year, but I mean,
how long does a mill and overlay take, Tom?
Could be done in one day,
Yeah.
It's just getting the contractors.
Yeah.
more likely two, but
It just, yeah, if the contractors have any
One thing that's,
availability.
for that particular road, though, that road takes a lot of beating with the buses. Takes a lot of beating, and
It
that's probably
certainly
why,
does.
that's why you give me the
That's
10 to
why
15
option
years.
number 2 was a little bit better. so.
Yeah. I like
Okay.
that.
all right, so what we're hearing, what we're saying is we can try the arbitration, we just don't say anything about it being binding, and we're willing to go with,
No,
No,
that's not.
no, the motion was,
the motion that
well,
passed.
no, I understand the first
Okay.
motion,
All
but it's the next position, because they're not going to accept that.
how
They
do
have
we
a choice
know?
to not accept it,
They're not
because
gonna-
it's their road.
It's their
It's
road.
that document they
Yeah,
have in
and
front
they're-
of them, and they're going to hold on to that
Yeah.
document. They're going to covet that document,
I mean, we
cradle
got
it in their arms.
Yeah.
But we have two of the people that were there that
We
said.
signed it.
I know, but we have two of the people there that said intent.
Yeah.
And we also have Tom that says that is not, maintenance does not include rehabilitation in anybody's mind. And like I said at the meeting, you hire a maintenance man, you break a window, you expect that maintenance man to fix the window. But if a tornado flattens your house, you don't expect the maintenance man to build your house.
Right.
No, do I want?
Okay, we can do that. I don't think they're going to go along with it.
Then
Let's not anticipate
we-
what they're going to do or not.
can we-
Let's just say what
I
we're
just
gonna
like
do.
the idea of what
Right.
Eric was
Let's-
saying.
Let's just say what we're going to do.
And that's where I'm trying to figure out if we want to come in after that. Do we want to try to do anything with arbitration?
Can we wait with that?
Well, this is all going to be at the same meeting. It's not like they're going to give us, 10 minutes, you guys can go off now and
Why
figure out
not?
what's your reaction.
Or we can come back in another month? What difference does that make?
Can we have sidebars?
Pardon me?
Can we have sidebars? Our, you may.
Well,
Is that-
Well,
yeah.
we-
If we're in
Permissible?
arbitration, we can.
It's an open meeting.
Yeah,
You
well, we
can.
could- it's
We
an
could
open
put a
meeting.
closed session in it and do closed session for
Or why can't we just,
discussion, further discussion for us to know our negotiation points, and then come back in open session. Yeah,
so can't we just, go with our point now? This is your road. You take care of it. Our taxpayer money is not going towards your road. And then after that, then we'll come back and we'll discuss again amongst us about the agreement.
what the next step
Because
is.
there's only two
Yeah.
houses on that road that are
Right.
Oakland's.
Like I said, I understand that. It's the other ones, but we're not talking Potter, and we're not talking.
No, we're just talking Blue Jay.
No, we're just talking Blue Jay Way.
Susan, anything? You've been kind of quiet, so
One thing I have, and Tom, you got me thinking with that last little comment you made is, what about the scenario where the people that live on that street say, well, if I'm not getting the same services from that particular road that the rest of the taxpayers are, what's to stop them from going to Oakland to say, we want to annex into Oakland?
but they're already part of Cambridge. They can't just voluntarily.
No, we're incorporated.
They wouldn't be able to just leave unilaterally.
Yeah, it's a little bit different with the town.
Right.
All right.
I mean to put you on the spot that time. I just was curious.
No, and I don't think you could go backwards. It would work the other way, if someone
Yeah.
from the town would want to be in the village. But
Okay.
Okay.
It's just-
I think I have an idea of how we're going to do this, so.
I have a whole booklet on annexation here from the league that if anybody in their free
Anybody likes a
time
good
wants to
sleep?
read it, because
Wonderful, good
I
reason.
haven't had the free time to sit and read it all, but there's a lot of nuances with annexations. So I have it in my office if anyone wants reading on the weekend or.
Okay.
I'll take it to Europe with me.
All righty. Okay, I think we've got this. We'll cover it back. Correspondence, nothing?
Nope.
All right. Meeting announcements, July 10th, the Library Board, July 16th, Water and Sewer, the 23rd will be the Village Board, the 31st, Board of Review, and the 31st will be the joint meeting with the Town of Oakland at the offices of Oakland. Okay. Questions, referrals to staff for future agenda items. As I mentioned earlier, I will not be here at the next meeting, so Ted, you'll be chairing the
Now,
meeting,
which meeting, what date is that?
23rd.
23rd of July.
Just have to check and see if I'm gonna be here.
Tuesday.
I will not be here either.
Okay,
I won't either.
And-
Bob's having surgery that day.
okay,
I'm
s-
still
And I
in
know I'm
Europe.
not gonna be here, for sure I'm not here for the joint meeting with Oakland.
okay. Well, that's on the 31st, but the
Right, I
question is
understand.
if you're going to be here for the 23rd,
I'll check.
because if not, there won't be a quorum.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or items for staff? I will go to item 13, entertain a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All right,
I'll second.
okay, second. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Food and water, I got a funeral to go to.